What's the scariest film you've ever heard about? One whose reputation was so nasty, marketing so horrific that you put off watching it for years, and when you finally did, it was worse than you ever imagined. For me, that film is Wolf Creek. And today I want to do a deep dive into why it's one of the most terrifying films ever made. Released in 2005, Wolf Creek is an Australian horror nightmare. Loosely based on the real-life killings of Ivor Milat and the Peter Falconio backpack murder, it follows tourists Liz, Ben and Christy as they travel across Western Australia until their car breaks down. They're picked up and towed by Mick Taylor, an Aussie larrikin with a heart of gold. From here, everything goes well, and they get their car fixed and live happily ever after, with just a few minor exceptions. I only saw Wolf Creek for the first time in October 2022, but my history with this film goes back much further. At a local JB Hi-Fi that had gigantic posters of the film, that haunting image of the girl alone on the empty road, face covered in blood with the tagline, "How can you be found when no one knows you're missing?" Jesus Christ. That poster haunted my nightmares for years. I remember being terrified and wanting to look away but not being able to. For years after, I'd see it in a magazine and it would send shivers down my spine. It took me another 17 years to finally watch the film, and I thought it couldn't possibly live up to the nightmare in my head. But I was wrong. It's worse. So much worse. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. This is the scariest film I've ever watched. No exceptions, no takebacks, this is it. In one incredibly low-budget film, they created a horror icon. Pound for pound, if you're talking from a single movie, not accounting for the sequels, I would put Mick Taylor up there with Freddy or Michael Myers. Mick is a disarmingly regular Aussie bloke. He helps the backpackers when they're stranded, a fun, offbeat country guy. If you've ever been to your local country pub, you've met this person. We first see him emerging from the dark, laughing at the trio, claiming they scared the shit out of him. He doesn't leer, he doesn't linger. When asked for a tow, he's unfazed, happy to help, not even asking for money. His kindness just feels like regular country charm. There's an easygoing nature that, although they're scared of the situation, disarms them, and it's meant to do the same to the audience. Although I've seen the poster, there ain't no trickin' me. You can only start to see the real Mick come through when a joke about Crocodile Dundee is said at the campsite. Suddenly, things start to shift. His larrikin fun demeanour changes as he goes quiet, staring at Ben in silence. You can really see his sense of control here as something unsettling surfaces. It's like he could snap at any moment, but he's toying with Ben, seeing if he's gonna crack. It's right out of the Hannibal Lecter playbook, calculating but always in control. He toys with his victims, letting them think they're safe, then reclaims the power at the exact moment he chooses. When all hell breaks loose and the torture begins, it feels like a game to Mick. He lets them get just far enough away, making them think they're safe, then takes control back, making any attempt to escape feel futile. You mix this in with an unhinged performance as he tortures and assaults Christy and Liz. He covers all despicable parts of a psychopath, the three-sided personality. His fun, charming part to get people into the door, the silent, patient control, and the violent, angry outbursts. Something else I love they did is they created such a recognisable silhouette with that hat. That damn hat. You're first introduced to him in that silhouette as he's backlit by his car, and then this technique is used again and again. Notable moments being when they're looking for Christy and Liz after dumping the car, the final chase scene, and the final shot of him walking into the distance. This idea of the Aussie bushman being Australian folklore forever, and then turning it into a menacing psychopath is wonderful work. And I really don't want to go camping anytime soon. I also want to give a quick shout out to all the actors in this film. Cassandra McGrath, Kesty Morassi, and Nathan Phillips all give incredibly raw, realistic performances. Kesty has spoken about running barefoot through the bush, ending up with hundreds of thorns and cuts. At one point, an on-set nurse sprayed her foot with disinfectant and burnt the bottoms of her feet, seeping into the cuts. But she kept going for the people. Cassandra has also said by the end of the filming she was covered in bruises, even having Jarrett's handprints visible from the intensity of the scenes. At one point, the owners of the shed they were filming in came down to see what they were filming, not realising what kind of film was being made, and left visibly upset. But for all accounts, the actors really enjoyed themselves, claiming that the set was a well-oiled machine and there was a bunch of laughs and good times in between. I always love the idea of a horror haunting all of our dreams, then the actors just having a whale of a time while creating it. Something else I want to point out is how truly nasty this film is. When it first came out, it was met with widespread controversy, especially within Australia. Australian film critic David Stratton condemned the film, saying that actors should be ashamed for appearing in it. Robert Ebert, when reviewing the film, gave it 0 stars, calling it a visual atrocity, and Moira McDonald from the Seattle Times described it as the first film she ever walked out on, calling it a punishment. And to be honest with you, I kind of get it. I really like this film and I think it's really powerful in how it's made, but I don't blame them. The unflinching, realistic violence is really brutal, and it does feel like a punishment. It's crazy because it's only well into the second half that this violence happens, but it's so powerful that it stays with you and just gets under your skin. It's not until 30 minutes into the film where we meet Mick Taylor, and 50 minutes until the horror begins. The horror genre is a real funny one because as an audience, we sit there and enjoy watching people be murdered as a pastime. I mean, I can't count the number of times I felt like, shit, it's been a hard week, I'm just gonna relax and watch a horror film. But Wolf Creek is one of the films that sucks all the joy out of the horror genre. None of it's flashy, elaborate, or even played that interesting. It shows this violence for what it truly is: brutal, horrific, and unflinching. It's not something if you're a normal human being you want to watch over and over. Even thinking about the torture shed honestly makes me feel ill. It's got a level of intensity rarely seen in films and a heaviness I'll think about for years to come. It's even worse when you think the film is based loosely on a true story, and it's not hard to see how a psychopath could take advantage of a remote place and commit these atrocities. There's nothing supernatural, nothing haunted, just a sick, twisted individual with knives and guns. Finally, I want to praise the film for its use of the outback and vast open spaces. Right from the beginning, we follow the characters as they journey across Western Australia, and you can see how vast and isolating the open space can be. Filmed on location at South Australia's Flinders Ranges and some additional scenes in the Northern Territory, the Flinders Ranges hadn't seen rain in years until a freak weather event happened, forcing delays and the need to rework scenes. Director Greg McLean spoke about this during the film's press conference, saying, "We arrived in the desert to shoot and it rained. It hadn't rained there in years, so all locations were wet, and this was supposed to be a desert horror movie. They reworked the beginning to include rain, and luckily had their dry desert horror film for the rest of the shoot. This is especially evident seeing Liz run across the empty road. You feel the weight of the horizon pressing down as it's framed in a wide shot, showing how vast it is. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape. The outback itself becomes a character, another cold, calculated, sadistic villain to add to the film. So much of horror is people locked in rooms or in small spaces with a killer on the loose, but Wolf Creek tapped into something even more horrifying. What if you could run and try to escape, but no matter where you go, no one will find you? This feeds into the horrifying tagline: how can you be found when no one knows you're missing? We watch Liz run and try to hide, but there's never any escape. All they're met with is more open road, more open country, and a blank horizon with sand, bush, and nothing else. So where does this leave me? From a poster haunting my childhood to finally watching it 17 years later. Does this mean I'm over my fear of Wolf Creek?
Absolutely fucking not.
Even now I see the image of that girl on the road and it sends shivers down my spine. Wolf Creek is a brutally effective film, a masterclass in realism, space, and sustained dread. It's nasty, relentless, and one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. And I think I'm done watching it. Although maybe one day I'll check out the sequel and TV show, maybe, and I know there's a third one coming out, but let's cross that bridge when we get there. So yeah, that's all I've really got to say. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what I should watch and review next. Maybe pick something a bit warmer and fuzzier. And yeah, bye.